Hi, everybody.
We'll probably get started right at 12 as per usual. I see some familiar names. So welcome back. This is being recorded, so if anyone has to drop off early, we're going to post it on our intranet site. Or if anyone missed it today that needs the link, it'll be up by the end of the day on our intranet Thrive site. And it is 12 o'clock, so I think we will start.
Let's get started.
So hi everyone, welcome to, first of all, happy Nutrition Month. March is Nutrition Month.
Did you know
And
that?
yep, and today is Registered Dietitians Day. Yay.
Yay!
So Carly and I are both registered dietitians and certified health coaches with Thrive Health Coaching Program, as you can see on our background. So we are a free health coaching service for all employees of Yale New Haven Health. We do one-on-one counseling. Oh, we got an applause. We do one-on-one counseling for all employees. We also do lots of webinars and department trainings and workshops and things like that. So very excited today to talk on nutrition labels. We thought that would be a good topic for Nutrition Month because we all shop and it can be confusing to read nutrition labels. So we thought this would be a good topic to go over. Any questions you do have, just pop them in the chat and then we can try and get to at the end. We only have 30 minutes, so we will stay on after for those of you who can, and we can address some of the questions. So nutrition labels. So today's goals, we're going to, first of all, understand what a nutrition facts label is, understand the serving size, calories, and percent daily values, understand what to look for in terms of fats and sodium and carbohydrates and added sugars. Like these are all can be overwhelming when we're shopping. So we're going to narrow it down. We will talk a little bit on marketing gimmicks or just little myths that might try and trick you in the grocery store because, you know, companies have to make money. So we get that. But we are going to learn how to kind of read those and understand what the best option is for you. And then we'll talk about some practical tips for comparing products when we're shopping, you know, just making sure that whatever our health goals are, our health needs are, we're making the best choice we can. And then we'll go over some common, just nutrition myths that, you know, we've all heard or you might have heard, and we'll talk about what those are. So why does nutrition labels actually matter? And really, it's just we need to know what we're putting in our body. And we usually like to say that if you're putting a lot of junk in our bodies, a little bit's fine, right? Gotta live. But if we're doing it, if we're doing it all the time, we're not going to show up our best. We're not going to feel good. We're not going to be able to function at our best. So it's really important to just understand, what am I eating day to day? What am I putting in my body? So we need to make sure we are fueling our brain function, giving us energy, heart health, you know, digestive system, nervous system. It really does matter what we're putting in our bodies. So making sure we're getting the most nutrition we can. And we want to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster, which we will have now and again because that's life, but we want to just really limit the added sugars that we're taking in from our diet because it causes us to feel up and down all day. You might recognize that, like you might get the energy crash in the afternoon, or just like kind of struggling with general energy and feeling like you might get the brain fog, things like that. So we want to make sure we're avoiding those dips and crashes in our blood sugar. And we want to control lifestyle factors that affect our risk for chronic disease. You know, are we eating a lot of sodium? You know, that can be something that we might not be looking for often, but it does impact our health. It can really affect our blood pressure, right? So we need to make sure we're aware of that. So if any of you have been on a webinar before, we love to talk about the healthy plate. This is kind of a nice target, if you will, when you're planning your meals to make sure you're getting a balance. So you want to have half a plate or half of your meal, if you can, of non-starchy vegetables, 1/4 of healthy carbs, you know, high fiber, rich carbohydrates, and then 1/4 of lean protein with some healthy fat. And then of course, choosing water as your drink of choice. So when we are shopping, we are still keeping this in mind, right? We want to make sure if I'm picking up a package, of chicken that I want to use as my lean protein source, you still have to turn it around and make sure what is actually in this package of chicken, right? There could be lots of additives in there that we might want to avoid. So this is kind of just the ideal way of planning your meals if you can. I also forgot to mention, we may talk about a few different products in today's session just to use as examples, but we're not hating on any foods. Like all food fits. We all got to do what we got to do when it comes to grocery shopping and budgeting and all that stuff. We're just giving you examples of what to look for in terms of some of these products on the market. So marketing strategies. These are what some of the companies are doing to get you to buy their products. So sometimes you might see they'll use certain words to kind of signal health, even if the product is high in sugar or high in fat, or just very processed, maybe high in sodium, things like that. You want to keep that in mind. You might see some of these words, right? Natural, harvest, farmhouse, tropical, earth grown, garden, nature, wholesome. They make us think, oh, this is a healthy sounding word. And it kind of works, right? You see that word and you think, oh, this product must be pretty good for me. Simply and clean, that's a common one too. But these labels kind of tap into the desire to eat simple and pure food. So our brain sees the word and we're like, oh, okay, I want to choose that because I am trying to eat more natural. Positive emotions about nature, that can be an influence. Assumptions that natural equals better. If something says natural cookies, what does that mean? But we see natural and we think, oh, it's a natural cookie. It must be better for me. But we still have to always make sure we look at the label. Here are some examples I just kind of made up, but tropical granola clusters. Sounds healthy, right? Because you've got tropical in there. Harvest cheddar snacks. The word harvest. Ooh, what could that mean? Or there we go, simply natural cookies. Right? They use these words to try and get you to buy them, but you have to make sure that you're reading labels because they still could have added sugars, artificial additives, and sometimes a lot of oil. So as you can see, this woman down here is looking at the package and she is thinking, is the front of the package really telling me much? Not really. I have to make sure I'm flipping it around and I'm looking at nutrition facts, what is in this food, and the ingredients. What is this food made up of? That tells the real story. And then nutrition and health claims. You see this all the time, but again, it's still not enough information to make an informed decision. So an example of, a nutrition claim, on this example, on the front of a package, it might say, let's say this is a cereal, box of cereal. It might say, whole grain is the #1 ingredient. So you think, oh, this cereal is very high in whole grain. It must be great for me and it must give me lots of fiber, etc. And it sounds healthy because again, it says whole grain. So you're thinking, okay, this is more wholesome, natural product. I should really look into this. And yes, I mean, it could be using whole grain wheat, but it might still have a lot of added sugar or a lot of, sodium or who knows what's in there, right? So it's something to be mindful of, especially if you are someone who is watching your blood sugars, or you're trying to cut back on sugar in general. Cereal is a really tricky one because, there can be some healthier sounding ones out there, but until we turn it around, we aren't really sure. Same with a health claim. So an example on another box of cereal might say, this can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart healthy diet. You might see that right on the front of the box of cereal. So it's kind of linking nutrient to lowering a disease risk or a health related issue. And why it sounds healthy is because it's an FDA authorized claim linking, in this example, soluble oat fiber to lower heart disease risk. So it is technically true, but the health benefit really only works as part of a low saturated fat diet in general, not from the cereal alone. So it's not saying if you eat this cereal, your heart disease risk is lowering. It's like, no, but if you included this cereal in a heart healthy diet, it can provide some benefits. So again, it's marketed as heart healthy, but eating it does not automatically make the whole diet heart healthy. So I hope that makes sense. And you might even recognize, like sitting here now, thinking of some products you see or eat often that maybe you want to look at again and be like, I'm just going to turn it around and see, okay, what else is in this product? Carly, off to you.
So, all right, so nutrition labels. So again, always look at the back of the food package. Look past what we call those health halo claims and advertising on the front that make it sound really healthy. You've got to know what you're putting into your body, right? Always know what you're putting into your body. Again, the front of the package is where the advertising and marketing happens. It's meant to draw your attention. So we're going to show this product with all of these health claims on it, right? We can say, I'm talking about a specific product. I'm going to describe that it's plant-based, it's all natural, it's organic, it's gluten-free, it's sodium-free, and it's fat-free, right? All of those claims sound, wow, this sounds like a really great healthy choice. I should buy this. But, what do you actually think? What could I be describing? So I'm actually describing a bag of sugar. So that's just to show you that those claims are not wrong. They're not incorrect or lying about sugar, but they're put on packaging to make you think maybe this product is more healthy than it actually might be, and they want you to buy it ultimately. Sugar is just sugar. So yes, there's no fat, there's no sodium in it, there's no gluten in it. Sugar can be organic. Sugar comes from a plant. It can be all natural. But again, that doesn't make it healthy. That doesn't mean you should eat large amounts of it. So you've got to look past the health claims on the front. They don't give you all of the information. They don't give you enough information to make a choice. So when it comes to the nutrition label, you've got to look at the label. That's where really the truth is. So on a label, there's different sections that we want you to pay attention to. Always look at that serving size. That's really important. The calories, it's important to be aware of them, but honestly, that's not the most important part of what's in the food. Looking at the nutrients is very important, and that percent daily value that you may have seen and maybe don't fully understand, but that's a great tool that we're going to use. So starting with the serving size. So that's the first thing you should look at when you're looking at a package, because if you're looking at maybe a small bag of chips, there could be 2 servings in that, in that bag. So everything on the nutrition label is based on 1 serving of that food. So keep that in mind. The serving size is not necessarily a recommendation of how much to eat. It just means everything on that nutrition label is based on 1 serving of that food. So you need to think about, okay, how many servings of this food am I actually going to have, or how many did I have? And realistically, if you are going to eat 2 servings of that food, then everything on the nutrition label doubles. If you're going to eat 3 servings of that food, everything on the nutrition label triples. So that's important to keep in mind. So calories, right? We just all hear about calories all the time. That's all, where all the attention is. It is not the most important part of eating and being healthy, for sure. It's part of the picture, but it is not as important as it seems to have been, made out to be in the past few decades. So have you ever thought about what a calorie is? Right? That's not that a calorie is an enemy. A calorie is a measure of the energy content in that food and a measurement of the energy use by our body. So that's what it is. We want you to be aware of the calories, but again, the quality of the food, what's in the food, is so important. So looking at the nutrients that are listed on a food label, these are considered what the government has said, over years, nutrients of concern that they want people to pay attention to. So that means, the total fat, the different types of fat, the sodium, the carbs, the sugar, the fiber, the protein. And a nutrient, I know you've heard that word before. A nutrient is it's a substance used by our bodies for proper functioning and growth. So, we're just made of billions of cells. If you do health coaching with me, you've heard me say this all the time. And each cell in our body has different jobs to do. And the tools that our cells use to do these different jobs are the nutrients we eat. So that's why it's very important to make sure you're getting the right nutrients, you're putting the right nutrients into your body, and you're really minimizing the types of foods and substances that are just, getting in the way of our body trying to function its best. So again, you want to look at, the fat, the sodium, the type of carbohydrate that's in there, and the protein and the vitamins and minerals. So what is most helpful could be the percent daily value. So this percentage number is always listed, and you might notice protein tends to not have a percentage number because that's not considered a nutrient of huge concern. So it's good to see the grams, but there's not always going to be a percentage there. But when it comes to the other percentages, a quick way to understand if one serving of that food is high or low in a different nutrient is this percent daily value. So if that percentage number is 5% or less, one serving of that food is low in that nutrient. If the percentage is 20% or more, one serving of that food is high in that nutrient. So we like to see high percentages of, no secret, fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, potassium, those types of things that are very helpful and important for our body's function. And we like to see lower percentages of the saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. And a special note, think of the percent daily value kind of like a budget. So for instance, we're going to look at the sodium, the 37% sodium. A serving of this food has 37% of your daily allotment of sodium. It doesn't mean that that food is made up of 37% sodium. If that makes sense, sometimes we might look at a label and think this food is 37% salt. That's not what the daily value means. It just means out of your budget recommended allotment for the day of sodium, a serving of this food uses 37% of that budget. So we see that 37% is much higher than the 27% threshold that makes it there's a high amount of sodium in this food. We see the saturated fat is at 23%, that's over the 20% threshold. This food contains a high amount of saturated fat. So that's something to keep in mind. And it doesn't mean that whatever this food is, you can't have it, it's off limits. It just means, okay, if I'm going to fit a serving of this food into my day, the rest of my day, I'm going to try to not eat a lot of salt. I'm going to try not to eat a lot of saturated fat because you don't want to eat large amounts of those types of nutrients that are not good for us. So total carbohydrates, right? Everyone wants to know about carbs. So, and how many grams of carbs should I have? There's really no recommendations for grams of carbohydrate in a serving or in a meal. It's so much more important what type of carbohydrate you're eating and how you're eating it. What else are you eating with that carbohydrate? So there's a spectrum of carbohydrates, right? There's some, on one end of the spectrum is the simplest sugars. Those are the simplest carbohydrates. And on the other end of the spectrum are the complex fiber-containing carbohydrates. And we really want you to eat those complex fiber-containing carbohydrates because they have so much important nutrition in them. So again, choosing the right type of carbohydrate and eating it in a balanced way, always coming back to this plate, we want you to have carbohydrate foods with proteins just for optimal energy, optimal blood sugar, optimal metabolism. We want you to have those types of carbohydrates. We want you to keep the portion smaller. We don't want you to continually have large, portions of carbohydrate or meals that are really just carbohydrate all day, every day, because that's imbalanced. You're not getting enough of the other nutrients and your body cannot use all the carbohydrate that's, going in at one time. So it's most important to consider the portion size of the carb, keeping it to just one fraction, 1/4 of your meal, one piece of your snack, and combine it with a healthy protein is ultimately the most important.
Yeah, that's what I usually say too. If you're starting to watch your carbohydrates or you're someone who just loves your carbohydrates, just start by thinking, can I just pair this with a protein, healthy fat, right? Maybe you're someone who eats a lot of carbs, which is fine, but can you start balancing it? Because it does make a difference for sure.
You're going to feel a difference. It's going to help keep you more full and you're going to have better energy for sure. You want to get off the blood sugar roller coaster. So these are two real nutrition labels. Graham crackers on one side, cookies on the other side. These are Oreos. And again, we're not hating on Oreos. It doesn't mean you can't have Oreos. It just means you need to look at the nutrition labels and you need to know what you're eating when you're making choices and understand how to fit different foods into your day. So let's look at the serving size of both of these. The graham cracker serving size is 8 crackers, but that really just means, you know how they come in big rectangles that break into 4 pieces? It just means it's 2 of those rectangles that break down into 8 smaller pieces. So it's going to be that much graham crackers, and the serving size for these Oreos is just 2. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I can only have 2 or else everything, you know, it's just, that's just the serving size. It's just information, right? So we're going to look at the calories next, and calories of the graham crackers and Oreos are not hugely different. There's more calories in the Oreos, but that should not come as any great surprise. Looking at the nutrients and the percent daily value is very important. So percent daily value, for instance, on the graham crackers, we're going to look at the saturated fat because that's the unhealthy type of fat. And especially the saturated fat that appears in ultra processed foods like cookies, chips, and things like that is really, really not good for us. And again, it doesn't mean you can never have these foods. It just means we don't want you to have lots of these foods all the time, every day. So again, just once in a while, anything is fine. So the saturated fat in graham crackers is 0. That's no surprise. Graham crackers are generally mostly a carbohydrate. And the saturated fat in the cookies, again, just 2 cookies, it's at 15% of your daily value. So while it's not over the 20% threshold, it's still kind of approaching that 20% threshold. It's certainly not low. So that's something to keep in mind too, that like, oh, okay, this has a good amount of saturated fat in 2 cookies. You know, so moving down, I'm going to look at fiber. So fiber in the graham crackers has 1 gram. That's not a lot, but it's something. You know, it's that 4%, and it's low in fiber. And the Oreos have no fiber, so that's not really surprising because I would never think Oreos are a source of fiber anyway. Right? I'm not looking to Oreos for health reasons. I'm looking because they taste good, and I'll have a couple. Yeah. Right. And then the added sugars, the graham cracker added sugars are at 16%. So those aren't low in added sugar by any means. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you're going to have a couple graham crackers, have it with some protein to, you know, kind of control that glycemic effect. And, you know, it really matters the rest of your day. What else are you eating? The percent added sugars of remember, just two of the cookies is at 34%. So we're already over the threshold of 20%, and 2 cookies contains 34% of our, you know, recommended amount of added sugars for the day. So that really is something to consider. So that's how you look at nutrition labels, and you just decide, okay, am I going to eat this? How much of this am I going to eat? How do I fit this into my whole day?
Mm-hmm. And even with the cookies too, it makes sense because if you're someone who maybe struggles to stop after 2 Oreos, I mean, it makes sense because there's so much sugar, added sugar, that your brain's like, ooh, I really like this, I want more, right? So it's kind of like that biological response. We're not doing anything wrong. It's just the way our bodies work. So like Carly said, adding a protein, right? Like having it with Oreos with some nuts or Greek yogurt, you know, crush up the Oreos and put them on your yogurt, and
right, it'll help, you know. And if you just make the Oreos, just, you know, if you're thinking to yourself, I can't just eat 2, you know, if you can try to just make those types of foods part of another large, like your meal, or part of a larger snack where there's some other foods in there, it makes it much easier to just manage the portion size of those foods that taste good but might not be giving us a lot of nutrition. So it's just important how you're going to fit these into your day. So these are 2 labels from 2 other snacks. So the one on the left is whole grain crackers like Triscuits, and the other one is pretzels. So let's look at the serving size. So the serving size of Triscuits is just 6. And the serving size of the pretzels, these are just like, you know, a pretzel kind of this big, just kind of a regular size pretzel, is 9. So in your head, you might be thinking, oh, just 6 crackers, just 9 pretzels, that'll never keep me full. Again, make this part of a larger snack where you've got some nuts and seeds or something as part of the snack. You've got maybe a piece of mozzarella string cheese, right? Yes. You don't just have to have this by itself. And we recommend you don't just have this by itself. You should, you know, try to incorporate it into other things. So serving size is important. The calories are not super different. There's a little bit more calories in the Triscuits. And let's jump down to the nutrients and percent daily value. So we see in the Triscuits that there's 0% saturated fat. We love that. And in the pretzels, also 0% saturated fat. We love that. And this should be no surprise because both these snack foods are mostly carb. So not a big surprise there's no saturated fat in these, but it's nice to see. And looking at the sodium in the Triscuits, 6%. So it's around the low mark, so that's that's good. And the sodium in the pretzels is higher. It's at 16%. And again, not a big surprise because you see the salts on pretzels, so not a surprise. So it's towards the higher end. And again, that really just means in 9 pretzels, I'm getting quite a bit of sodium. The rest of my day, maybe I won't have a lot of high sodium foods. The fiber content in the Triscuits is 3 grams. Triscuits are made from whole grains, so that makes sense. There's more fiber in those because fiber is in the whole part of the grain, and that's at 11%. So that's nice. There's a little bit, more going on there. And the fiber in the pretzels is just 1 gram. So again, not a big surprise. Pretzels are not a big source of fiber. So that just to look at nutrition labels, what's in it, what do I need to watch out for? How do I incorporate this into my day in a healthy way?
And then ingredients are also important. And actually, it could be actually more important than the nutrition facts table in a way, because it's actually showing you what the product is made up of. So sometimes you might be looking at ingredients, sometimes you might not. But it's important to know that the ingredient list is ordered in the weight of the ingredient. So whatever is near the top of the list on the ingredients is heavier in that food item. It weighs the most. So if you see, sugar, refined flour, oils up near the front of the list, ooh, this product is kind of heavy in those ingredients. What you want to look for in the ingredients list are things like for fiber, you want to look for whole grain, whole wheat, right? That shows that there's probably more fiber in this product. And again, look to see if there are added sugars, and you want to keep that low and lower on the list if you can, right? Because that means there's less of it in the product. However, as they list a bunch of different words on there that mean added sugars, but it's up to us to figure that out, which is not fair, but that's what they do. So you really do want to make sure you're not only looking at the nutrition facts, you're also looking at the ingredients. So here are some examples. High fructose corn syrup, number 1, right there on the far left. So we know, okay, this product is a bit high, high in sugar. So it's really, really good to look for. And of course, the shorter the ingredient list, right, the better. It's less processed. So that's something to keep in mind too. And down here in the right, you'll see where it says ingredients, water, and protein blend, etc. There's lots of organic, but it's all stating organic cane sugar, organic flaxseed oil. Like, okay, that's great, but it's still additives. So it's still giving you more sugar. So giving you more oil. Yes.
Right.
So don't let the word organic get you, because I get it. Yes, sometimes you want to buy organic foods, but it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Added sugars, as Carly mentioned, so important, especially when you're looking at your packages. And when we think about it, added sugar, so in general, sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams. So in this example here, this is a can of soda. And right there, it says total carbs, 39 grams, so almost 40 grams. Total sugars, so basically it's all sugar, 40 grams. But even worse, it's all added sugar. So it's saying this product includes almost 40 grams of added sugar, which is 10 teaspoons. So sometimes that visual kind of helps just be like, oh, that's quite a lot, right? And there we go, 78%, right? So that's quite high. And when we think about our daily added sugar limit, for men, it's 9 teaspoons, 36 grams. For women, 6 teaspoons, 25 grams. So right there in that can of soda, we are past our limit for the day. Not that we can't enjoy a can of soda now and again. Love a Coke. But if it's something you're doing a couple days a week, that's a lot of added sugar for your week, right? So you want to make sure, because it does add up quite quickly. So that's kind of a good target to keep in mind, just when you're making your choices. And then here we go. So here are some other names for sugar that are on the ingredients list that you'll have to recognize. Okay, that means there's added sugar. And even if it says honey, even if it says coconut sugar, even if it says agave, beet sugar, anything, it's all still added sugar. So it's still sugar. Sometimes we get confused, like, oh, it's a natural sugar, so but it's still added to
Sugar.
your food.
Right.
So we have to remember that. So just maybe make a note of a few of these names to start looking for. Again, especially if they're in the top 4 ingredients of your ingredient list. And then again, how much time? Oh, I have 1 minute. Okay. Well, there are lots of great recipes and meal ideas out there, social media, online, but you still want to make sure you're choosing the best options you can. So still, it comes back to the plate method. If you can get non-starchy vegetables in there, lean protein, fiber, heart healthy fats, fruits, herbs, and spices instead of salt, right? This really supports your health versus the caution we want to watch for is, recipes that call for added sugars or large portions of refined carbohydrates and sodium. And, you really want to be aware. And again, it's all balance, but if it's something you're making day to day, choose the left column as much as you can. Like focus on what can I give my body to feel good and to function properly.
So grocery shopping, I know, sorry, we love talking about this so much. So when it comes to grocery shopping, produce, stop in the produce aisle, get comfortable in there, try to look for things maybe you're not used to buying, right? We all have a routine when we get into the grocery store, but just try to spend time looking at different choices. How are you most likely going to get yourself to eat lots of vegetables? Especially the non-starchy vegetables in particular. Fruits are great too. Are you going to have to buy, the pre-washed, pre-cut ones? Is that more realistic for you than buying a, head of broccoli that you might not prepare and it might go bad in your fridge? So how are you going to make sure you are getting servings of these very important nutrients into your body? Fresh, frozen, canned, they can all work. If it's got a nutrition label on it, read the nutrition label and see what's in there. Sometimes canned or frozen veggies can have some other stuff added into it. So again, you have to be aware of what you're putting into your body. If you're getting, canned beans, you're going to want to drain and rinse them just to reduce sodium and all that kind of stuff. Just keep looking on the nutrition label for added sugars. What's the sodium content? And is there some saturated fat in there? Just always check the ingredients on the label.
Yeah, frozen vegetables can be tricky too because they put sauces and seasonings on them sometimes in the freezer aisle. So just be aware of that. Yeah.
So proteins, again, we talk about proteins all the time. You want to just look for lean proteins. And when we say protein, sometimes people think protein bars, protein shakes. We mean real food, so real food first. That's what your body's designed to metabolize, digest, use. So you want to really fill your day with real sources of protein. Variety, there's animal-based proteins, there's plant-based proteins, whatever types of food you eat, that you can find some good protein. And again, protein supplements are an okay backup. They are not a substitution for real food. So you really want to get used to, buying some chicken and turkey, eggs, tofu, edamame, nuts, seeds, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Those are all really lovely sources of good proteins. And again, if there's a nutrition label on it, always look at the label, see what's in there. Always want to limit, we're going to say this ad nauseum, added sugars, sodium, saturated fat. The highly processed meats like bacon, salami, hot dogs, pepperoni, sausage, they're not great. They are associated with colon cancer. So that's really in the category of once in a while or very tiny amounts, and chop into small pieces and distribute throughout your foods. You get a little taste of them. We really want you to eat, the baked, grilled, kind of types of proteins that are just more nutritious and helpful for you. And the carbs. And again, when we talk about carbohydrate, think about that spectrum of carbohydrates that I mentioned before. We really want you to pick the ones that contain fiber. And fiber, we all think about, we associate it sometimes with just bowel movements. It's so much more important than that. It stabilizes your blood sugar. It's very important for heart health and good digestion, of course. It makes you feel more full because it takes longer to digest. Fiber acts like a prebiotic, which actually is the food that feeds your good gut bacteria. So the gut bacteria are, that's the probiotic, but the prebiotic is the food that it eats. So that's very important. You always want to pair it with protein. So protein and fiber together, wonderful combination. So lots of ways to get fiber. Whole grains, you want to see the word whole. You don't want to see the claim stone ground wheat, honey wheat. Those are meaningless.
Or multigrain.
You want to see, or multigrain.
Tricky.
Multigrain is not whole grain. So you want to see the word whole wheat. Those are, list of some of the whole grains down there that are nice. And again, keep them in their portion. You don't need a whole plate of, quinoa. You just need kind of like a half a cup of quinoa, and then you're going to get all you need from it in that serving. Fruits, the fruits that are very high fiber tend to be the berries, apples with skin, pears with skin. Unripe bananas have a really good type of fiber called resistant starch, because as the bananas ripen, they get sweeter and the starch converts more to sugar, but the unripe greener bananas have a nice type of fiber in them. Kiwis, especially the sun gold kiwis with the skin, you can eat the skin, I promise. It's just kind of like eating apple skin. Oranges have some fiber in them too. So again, fruit juice is not a substitute for real fruit. Fruit juice, they remove all the fiber, so there goes that, and they concentrate all the natural sugar in the fruit. So while fruits are great, the fruit juice is just going to give you a lot of sugar. So, so consider that in your day, how much juice you're having and what you're putting into your body. Beans, legumes, so all the beans are great. Lentils, peas, those are all good sources of fiber, and they also have some protein, so they're a bit of a hybrid. Nuts, seeds, especially chia, flax, pumpkin seeds, edamame, all nuts and seeds have some levels of fiber. They also carry healthy fats and protein as well. And then some of the higher fiber veggies are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, asparagus, artichokes, carrots, things that, are a little hardy and take a little bit to chew. Those are some good sources of fiber.
And then nutrition myths. So can you still hear me, Carly?
Yes.
Okay, my headset just died.
Oh no.
So the myth is that high protein always equals good for you. And yes, Carly and I do preach the protein. We love the protein. But it's more to do with don't let the front of the package fool you, So some of these items down here, certainly welcome in your diet. It's just that you have to be aware. Like a Pop-Tart that's high in protein is still a Pop-Tart.
Still a Pop-Tart.
It has protein, but it also has maybe some added sugars in there. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of what this slide is focusing on, is that if a product needs like a lengthy list of like sugars and additives, but it has protein, it might not still be the best option. So just keep that in mind. Like we love the Cashy Go cereal. I'll have that with my yogurt.
Yeah.
But I'm aware, okay, it says protein and fiber, which it does have, but I still have to watch the portion because there is sugar, right? So just something to think about. Mm-hmm. Made with real fruit, you might see this often and think, oh, it's healthy. But no, because like Carly said, they strip the fiber and water from the fruit and they make it more of like a puree kind of thing to add to some food items.
Not fruit.
And they like, yeah. And it provides a sweet taste, so it tastes good, and but it's such a small amount that's really not made from real fruit. So don't let that fool you. Or maybe just don't rely on your fruit intake from foods that say made with real fruit.
They're not equal.
Exactly. And then eggs are bad for heart health, cholesterol. That's the myth that we've all heard, but no. So you may have heard eggs clog your arteries, only eat egg whites, eggs will raise your cholesterol. No. So dietary cholesterol has minimal impact on blood cholesterol for most people. And also the whole eggs thing comes from research back when, the claims were created because most of the time people were eating eggs with bacon, sausage, high fat foods. So they blamed it on the eggs, but really it was the whole meal, right? So it's not so much the eggs that are causing any sort of issue. It's more what you're eating it with. But eggs give you lots of nutrients, vitamin D, B12, choline, high quality protein source that's easy to make at home. And the fat is good fat. It's unsaturated fat and it's good for your heart health. So enjoy your eggs, just have a mix of all foods. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah. Organic or gluten-free automatically means healthy. No, it doesn't. If you are someone who is celiac or actually allergic to gluten, definitely follow a gluten-free diet. But other than that, we really can include gluten. It has it comes from the grains that give us lots of nutrients. So we kind of do need it. I mean, those fries down there in the corner, they're still French fries. So don't let the word gluten-free throw you off.
Make it
It doesn't really tell us much. It's just some products might say gluten-free on it, just like Carly showed the bag of sugar, but it's still sugar, right? It still has fats and carbohydrates and things like that. Same with organic, definitely the fruit, let's say it's organic bananas versus regular bananas, same nutrient quality. So don't solely rely on needing to buy organic. Plus, it can be expensive and maybe that's not in your budget, right? It's okay. You don't always need to buy organic foods. So choose foods that match your needs, not because they guarantee better nutrition. And then just to wrap it up, outsmart the marketing. Always learn to look at your products. You'll gain a lot of confidence too in your shopping once you start practicing doing this. And also maybe give yourself some time at the grocery store, especially if you're just getting into reading labels. We know in today's society, like you're going to buy packaged foods. That's just the way it is, So you will have to read labels, and it's important to learn the skills so then you can just start recognizing products that you kind of use as staples in your household and you can rely on that. So look beyond the front of the label, make sure to, ignore some of those words in the front that try and trick you. Look for the first 4 ingredients and just make sure we're not having added sugars near the front. And then prioritize whole foods as much as you can, But again, you're going to buy packaged foods and that's so okay. But no single food will make or break your health. There's no magic wand or magic food. Wish there was, but there's not. It's all about what are you doing 80% of the time? Like what can you consider, even if it's just one step at a time? Like I'm just going to start focusing on reading labels for sodium for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to move on and start looking at added sugars. Like whatever works for you and your health needs, start there. And you can certainly reach out to us to book an appointment if you need more guidance. But that's kind of it. That is nutrition label reading in a nutshell. Crash course, yes.
Yeah, so thank you again for joining us. Again, we are part of Thrive Health Coaching. Thrive is just the umbrella term for the employee well-being department. And that is how you reach us. You can go on the employee intranet and look under T for under departments and communities for Thrive. And that's how you get to our website. And we're also joined by the EFR department. And there's some other lovely things you'll find on the Thrive website for employee well-being. And then you can click on Thrive Health Coaching specifically for our services. So we can hang on for a few minutes.
Yeah, we can hang on, see if we got any questions.
Nutrition labels can be tricky and feel overwhelming, but again, if you just keep it basic, stick to the basics, right? We don't want to overcomplicate things. Fill your day with whole foods as much as possible. You can never go wrong with good old fruits and vegetables and real food, proteins and some good healthy fats. Can't go wrong with that. And then using, packaged foods, for what you need, how you need to fill your day, and just know what you're putting into your body and give your body what it needs to do its job. That's all nutrition is, just giving your body what it needs to do its job its best.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions. So I'm going to just see if I can open these up. Are carbs from an apple in any way equal to the same amount of carbs from a cookie in regard to weight loss or weight maintenance? So calories, yeah. So if you were looking at calorie comparisons, let's say they were exact same, sure, but it's more to do with like the nutrients it's giving you. So cookies, we know, gives you lots of added sugars, which won't hold us over and we'll probably end up overeating later, versus if we had an apple that gives us natural sugars with fiber, so we tend to feel more full. So it does help for sure.
Right, and it's just more, right, also the apple's anti-inflammatory. The ultra processed foods tend to be inflammatory, which is not what we want in a weight management situation. We want to eat those anti-inflammatory foods. So important. So that apple contains so many vitamins and minerals and fiber, like Kristen said. Much better choice than you can have a couple cookies and still be on a weight loss journey, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
But the cookies,
enjoy your life.
They're not equal. Like even if they had the same amount of calories, the same amount of carb in them, they are not equal. So eating the apple is a much better choice for all of the nutrition it's giving your body.
Eggs, white, brown, cage-free, organic, grass-fed, what's best? So yeah, it can be overwhelming when you go to the grocery store and there's like a million types of eggs. Start with what you're comfortable doing. Like if you're just working on getting in eggs, getting in protein,
Mhm. Just
whatever
buy
one you
what's
want to
affordable.
choose. Yeah, buy one, whatever you think's affordable for you at that moment. Yeah, there's different, you know, farming strategies.
Practices, right.
I don't
It's
really
more
know a
like
whole lot,
maybe
but
ethics having to do with the
yeah.
cage free. For sure, it just
Mhm,
sounds nicer for the animal. And sometimes
mhm.
grass fed can mean higher amounts of healthy fat, the omega-3s sometimes. Sometimes there's really no way to know. It's always going to be a good source of protein. There's always going to be good vitamins and minerals in that yolk, like bottom line. So you can start with just what's affordable, getting used to incorporating eggs in, and then as you get used to it, and if you want to spend more of your budget on the cage-free,
Yeah,
eggs,
organic.
organic, I tend to get Eggland's Best just because,
I get those too.
just like what I get. But if they're
Yeah, it's
really
just like what I've
expensive, I just
gotten.
get the store brand what's on sale.
Oh, I'm getting them what's on sale these days.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, someone asked what any nuts you recommend. Pretty much all nuts good to go.
yeah.
Tons of omega-3, like walnuts, almonds are kind of the top two,
Mhm,
in my opinion. But you want to make sure you're not buying salted nuts if you can, unless you're somebody who actually has been told by their doctor, like you need more salt.
mhm.
Um, it's not best to buy the salted nuts because you don't want excess sodium. But nuts are a great snack
Oh,
and they're
yeah,
really good
yeah,
to pair with fruit or something, higher in carbs because it just kind of helps again with that blood
yeah,
sugar
yeah.
management.
Yeah,
Um,
all
yeah.
nuts will have some level of healthy fats, some level of protein, some level of fiber, actually. So they've got the trifecta of the great nutrients. They're all different. So mixed nuts really is my jam. I just get a big thing of mixed nuts from my shop right because I'm always
Yep.
shop right. And I might mix in a cup like some dark chocolate chips with them, or I might mix in
Fun.
a few, like I'll crush some honey mustard pretzels just a little bit and throw that in. So I do get a little bit of the salty, yummy taste in with the nuts that also taste good to me.
Hmm.
So you can certainly do that. And like Kristen said, just make it part of your snack.
Hmm.
We all know the serving size of nuts is pretty small. It doesn't mean you have to stick to that, of course. It's again the context of your whole day. How are you eating it? Nuts make a good add-on to an apple. So an apple, the healthy carb plus a handful of nuts, there's that great combo of protein and fat with some fiber. So again, incorporate the nuts into like with some Triscuits and some baby carrots, just make it part of a larger snack.
As you can tell, we love Triscuits, it's
I love
just so
Triscuits.
reliable. And then
Always
someone
have them in
said,
my house.
I eat cottage cheese as my protein with any and all crackers. Love that, right? Because
Yes,
you're
a lot of
getting
people do
the
that. Savory.
starch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then cottage cheese, boom, get some protein. And you know what?
Great
That's probably more
protein.
filling than if you had the crackers on their own, right?
Right. Right. Carbs
So
by themselves
definitely a good
is
idea.
actually not filling. Right. And it will put you on the blood sugar roller coaster. Even the really good carbs, if you just had your whole breakfast was cereal and fruit, that's not that those foods are inherently bad for you by any means, but it's a lot of carb that your body's going to kind of run through pretty quickly, digest quickly, and then you're just going to
Gonna be
crash.
hungry and
Right, you're gonna be
hangry.
hungry. You're probably gonna crave more carbs. So again, that balance, the more you can take out one of those carbs, put in something with protein,
Yeah.
spread the carbs out, look for the ones that contain fiber, have a protein with it. You're gonna feel so much better.
And the slides, I'm gonna once we're off here, I'm gonna put this on our YouTube page, our recording, and then I'll put the slides and the YouTube link on the Thrive intranet, which I think is in the chat. We someone posted the link.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
Or
think Gail did. Thank you, Gail.
yeah, thank you, Gail. So I'm just trying to see if any other questions. For some reason, I don't know why it always kind of minimized on me. Oh,
I know.
someone else said I put walnuts in my, what did it
Perfect.
say?
And
Greek
Greek
yogurt.
yogurt.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love nuts. I'm always telling people
Yeah,
to eat nuts.
a great
Because
add-on. Yeah,
and
I do
people
chia
fear the
seeds
nut
too.
because they're like, oh, the calories, the fat. It's like, but
Listen, I
it's
know.
helping you eat less overall. So
Right. And
don't
the
fear
nuts
the
are
nuts.
so full of nutrition, so much better for you than, I just feel like a lot of the diets from the 80s and 90s had us believing rice cakes were better than nuts, and that's not true at all. So yeah, so I love putting chia seeds in my yogurt. I love adding nuts to things. Just consider those foods that have the higher calorie but really nutritious foods, just an add-on. Throw them into your day.
And then what about lean ground beef versus lean ground chicken versus lean ground turkey? Are they pretty much equal, or is one better than the other? I mean, all food fits.
Right. They're all great. Yes. They're all
The
great.
turkey and the chicken would be giving you less saturated fat versus the beef. But the beef gives you a little bit more iron. So like you can pick and choose what your diet looks like for the week.
Just the rotation. So I would recommend just a variety. I certainly get lean ground beef, and we have that maybe once a week. We'll do like a big lean beef chili.
Like a chili,
Right. So, don't have beef all day, every day, or don't have turkey all day, every day. You're just missing out on the nutrients from the other foods. So certainly it's all about the variety, then the rotation. So, right, it's not that one is better than the other. Have lean ground beef one night, have the chicken another night, have some turkey the other night, have some fish one night, have a plant-based, protein meal another night. So just put it, in the rotation.
Butternut acorn squashes, are they considered starchy vegetables?
So I think spaghetti squash is lower carbohydrate. Butternut squash, sometimes I do mix up my squashes.
I love spaghetti squash.
I love spaghetti squash. Yeah. Butternut might be a little bit more carby, but good nutrition in it for sure. So that just means don't have this much of it at once, have maybe this much, and put some other stuff with it, serve it with the protein, make sure, just like potatoes. We love potatoes. Right? Potatoes with the skin, lots of nutrition in the carb category. So you don't want to have this much of it at once and nothing else. You want to have maybe this much in a meal paired with something else with protein and some non-starchy vegetables in there for sure. I love a good butternut squash with Brussels sprouts and a little bit of honey.
Yes.
Such.
Someone makes overnight oats.
Yeah.
Oh, someone puts cottage cheese in lasagna. I feel like I haven't tried that, but I've seen recipes.
I've put it in my cottage cheese is great because it's pretty mild and it blends into things. You put it in your eggs. That's just a great way to pump up the protein of something in a good way. Again, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, they're just such good also sources of calcium, which again, part of the big picture, really important for bone health, especially as we're all getting older.
And we'll really dive into this in our Women's Health series starting in April. Any other questions? But
there's not any great apps. There's a lot of the apps depend on users putting in information. So that's not great sometimes where you don't know if what's real or what's not. So I know a lot of people use the Yucca app. Yucca, I'm not even trying to say it. I feel like that one's okay. Again, nothing's perfect. So nothing is going to take the place of you definitely looking at the nutrition label and the ingredients to see what's going on. And if a food is an ultra processed food, like a pre-made cookies, chips, and things like that, we already know that's not great. So it doesn't mean you can't eat it. It just means, okay, this food, I'm just going to have a little bit of it, or it's going to be part of my day. And the rest of my day is full of really solid, good, whole, real foods. So that's how you can kind of decide, have the chips, but also don't have them all day. Don't have huge amounts of them at one time. They're just part of your meal or part of a snack, if that makes sense. So it's not like some chips are better than other chips kind of thing. If something's an ultra processed food, it's probably not a great source of nutrition for your body. So just make sure the rest of your day is pretty solid. You're getting fruits and vegetables, you're getting whole, real, lean proteins, some sources of healthy fat, lots of water. So that's kind of how best to approach your day.
Like my favorite thing ever is a beach day with some like salty Lay's potato chips. Like, oh,
Right.
but you'd have it with your sandwich
Right. I'm
or
gonna
whatever.
have
So
some
you're
fruits and some cut
yes,
veggies, along with that too.
but
Yeah.
it's like you just have to find a way to fit in the
To fit
foods that you
in.
love,
Right.
and then you try and be as balanced as you can. And it's
Right.
not easy. Sometimes, it takes time
Mm-hmm.
to work on some of these habits, but yeah, these are all great questions, and
Yeah.
it sounds like
Yeah.
you guys are eating well. Like there's some fun little recipes in there for yogurt
Yes.
and overnight oats. We have recipes on our Thrive intranet if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to add more.
Trying to add more.
But yeah, there's a lot of great recipes out there. So if you are wondering if a recipe is all right or a nutrition label, you can reach out to Kristen and I too and ask us. We love food. We love all food. For sure. We love talking about food. We love eating food. We love looking at food. So we're happy to help you figure out what's going to work best.
That's kind of it. Oh yeah, someone said the Yuka app helps, but you end up a lot of the time at the groceries. You spend a lot of time at the grocery store because you're scanning everything.
Right. What's this? What's this? So just now, again, packaged, ultra processed foods, questionable nutrition. Look at the labels, figure out what's in there, and you can't go wrong with just real fruits, real vegetables, real
And
sources of protein, healthy
I
fats.
wonder too with some of these scanning apps and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
is it fear mongering a little bit? Because
I know.
like
Right.
I don't know.
I
It tries
know.
to get in
Pros
your
and
head and
cons.
say
Yeah.
this food is,
We don't
horrible.
want you to be obsessed with food by any means. We want food to be a happy part of your life, and we don't want you to have all this food noise in your head worrying about if you eat one wrong thing, you've blown it. That's not how we think at all. We want you to enjoy food and find ways to mostly eat these really high nutrition, good for you, whole real foods.
Yep. Yep. At the end of the day, you can reflect and say, what did I do today that I'm proud of? Okay. That's great. So, yeah.
We just want you to take good care of yourselves and just give your body what it needs to do its job.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really
someone
good.
just said, be mindful of what you put into your body.
Yes. So true. So true.
So, thank you everyone so much. If you have other questions, you can always just email us at thrivehealthcoaching@ynhh.org. And check out our Thrive intranet site, and we will see hopefully some of you back at our April Women's Health webinar, which the links are on the site as well to register.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.